I do think what you've seen, and I touched on this theme during the speech, I think it has less to do with my race, but there is an argument that was made in 1964, 1965, on through the 80s and 90s, in which those who resisted any change in the status quo, particularly when it came to economic opportunity, made two big arguments. Argument number one was any efforts by government to help folks who were locked out of opportunity, whether it was minorities or the poor generally, unions, any effort by government to help those folks is bad for the economy. And that became a major argument. And if, in fact, people start thinking the government's the problem instead of the solution, then what that leaves you is whatever the marketplace does on its own. And what we've seen is a marketplace that increasingly produces very unequal results. So it disempowers our capacity for common action to do something about poverty, to do something to help middle-class families. And I think the second element to that argument that has been made, sometimes subtly, sometimes not so subtly, is that government has hurt middle-class families or hurt white working-class families because, pointy-headed bureaucrats in Washington are just trying to help out minorities or trying to give them something free. And there's a line that's drawn between the deserving poor and the undeserving poor. That, I think, has been a fairly explicit politics in this country for some time. And it's directed at Bill Clinton or Nancy Pelosi just as much as it's directed at me. I think it doesn't have to do with my race in particular. It has to do with an effort to make sure that people who might otherwise challenge the existing ways that things work are divided. And so part of what Dr. King talked about, part of what I think we have to get back to is a recognition that the working man in Arkansas who happens to be white and the black woman in Philadelphia who wants to work but is having a tough time finding a job, that they've got things in common, that in fact they can work together. And if they've both got kids, we want to make sure both of those kids are able to get the training they need and go to college and succeed in this economy. And there are certain things that only government can do together, like rebuilding our roads and our bridges and putting people back to work, creating the kind of energy that will allow our economy to succeed in the future. And so I'm less concerned about the short-term politics and tactics that you kind of see and get debated a lot on cable television. And I'm much more interested in figuring out how do we create common cause for the overwhelming majority of Americans who are decent, hardworking, I think just want to do right by their kids and their families and their communities. They've lost trust in the capacity of government to help them even though they're hurting. Are there things we can do to bring about that kind of coalition of conscience, as I said? And I think there are. I'm an eternal optimist.